Larch trees make a fantastic bonsai. Why? Well, let's find out. Of course, one of the really unusual things about the larch is that it is a conifer. So it's part of the cone-bearing family of trees, like pines, for instance. But what's unusual is that it is actually deciduous, so it loses its leaves through the wintertime, whereas most conifers are evergreen. And there are only a few conifers that actually do this, and the larch is obviously one of them. And being deciduous, that of course means that we get to appreciate all the different seasons that it goes through. So here we are in winter mode, and it won't be long before we start to get the spring growth. And the larch has the most amazing spring growth. These little florets open up from these buds, and they really are this bright lime green, and it just starts to take over the whole tree as the buds open up. It gets more and more green, and they are beautiful. And the other thing I like about the larch clusters, the leaf clusters, the florets, is that in the morning the dew, or you get a little bit of rain, and you end up with little globules of water right in the center of those leaves, so it sort of forms this little ball here of water. And when you get the morning sun on it, it looks fantastic. Lots of little lights shining all over it. Beautiful trees. And then obviously they go darker green through the summer, and it gets covered in this lovely green foliage. All the twigs kind of disappear, but you end up with nice foliage pads. And then into the autumn time, you get this beautiful golden glowing colour before all the leaves drop off, and we're back to where we are now. So it's a truly magical tree. And the other thing, of course, is it's actually really easy to grow. It doesn't mind being pruned, so we can shape it by pruning quite easily, which is also unusual for conifers, because if evergreen trees like pines and junipers and things like that, we can only prune a little bit at a time. But the larch, being deciduous, we can prune it fairly hard through the winter time, which is great for shaping purposes and styling purposes. And that's what we're going to be doing now. We're going to be doing some shaping and a bit of styling on this bonsai. And it's around about the 46-ish years, around about that sort of time. But it's one I've grown for a long time, but it's still got a lot of work to do, still got some shaping, some branches to change and things like that. So we're going to have a look at that in this video. And while we're going through that, we'll look at some other attributes of the larch. First things first, I'm going to have a clean up around here. We've got lots of moss, it's a little bit weedy, some old needles, and so we're going to clean up through that. It's a great process. I love this cleaning bit because it kind of gets me in tune with the tree before I start any taking off or changing any branches and doing any styling work like that. So it kind of brings me together with the tree. So let's get on with that. We've got moss, which is actually creeping all the way up the trunk, which is lovely because lots of old trees, especially larch, they do have moss growing kind of all over them. We've got moss on the branches up here, and it's lovely. But I also like to make sure that I can see the bark, the cragginess of the bark, and larch has really lovely bark, got a lovely colour to it, and lots of little fissures and cracks and nooks and crannies. So we need to make sure we can see that character. So maybe I'll keep a little bit of the moss and blend it in a little bit because I like both. We'll see how we get on.
ups and downs. I wanna see how the world turns round. Let's go adventure in the deep blue sea. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be. Home is with you wherever that may be.
So this is great. We can see everything that's going on down here. Still a lot more cleaning up to do, but we can see basically what's going on. It's not the most beautiful and elegant start of the bonsai, but it is very interesting. There's lots of shapes going on down here that we can work with going forward. Lots of things I need to sort out, which we will do in the repotting video. That will be the next one. So if you want to see that, please subscribe. We've got these things to sort out and lots of things we can improve upon. So that's good. For now, we are going to concentrate on the actual top of the bonsai. I love the overall shape. It's just really simple shape. And it looks lovely all year round. The trunk, I really love this trunk. It's just simple and it's straight, it's uncluttered, very easy to see, very easy on the eye. The bark is lovely, it gives some interest. But when we get to this point, sort of midway up here, the trunk becomes cluttered and that spoils it. Because it's lovely all the way up. So we need to be able to see that. And this has been happening for a while. When the tree was younger, I left more branches in to fill out the space to get this kind of overall shape. As time goes by and the branches thicken up and they get bigger, they get more twiggy, it occupies more space. And then it gets to the point where we don't really need two branches to occupy this space. We can do it with one. And that starts to simplify the trunk. Because if we think, I can take out a branch now and leave one nicer branch, we can see that branch, we can see the trunk. And it leads me onto a phrase which I live by. It's three simple words. Less is more. And it just echoes around in my head quite often, not just with bonsai, but with everyday things. And in this situation, less is more. So the less branches we have, the more space we have, the more opportunities we have to see the trunk and to see those branches. And if we then have more space, we can grow this branch, for instance, here, it can occupy more space. It becomes more twiggy. It becomes, then because it's more twiggy, we get more foliage going onto it. So there's less in here, but more out here, I suppose, is what I'm trying to say. And it's the same all over. So we can then gradually thin out some of the branches and then let the bigger ones, the nicer ones, the ones that are better placed around the trunk to take over. That simplifies the bonsai. But how do we do that? How do we know which ones to take out? And there are a few obvious things, but it's also a process. You don't have to do it all in one go. I have seen that some of these branches have needed to come out over the past 2 or 3 years. As one branch gradually gets a bit bigger, we can use that one to take over and we can take out the ones near it. We need to make sure that we keep some branches on the sides to give us some side branches. We need some background and we need some foreground. And what we don't need is to occupy this space right in the viewing part here. We need to make sure we keep that clear because we want to be able to see the trunk. It's good to have a little bit of movement, a little bit of twigginess, maybe just creeping out into the foreground, just to keep it natural. I don't like to see a bonsai where it's all kind of branches all the way around and then it's just like this wedge shape cut out to the middle so that we can see the tree. So I try to keep it natural. I try to keep the branches just maybe creeping in a little bit. Anyway, let's move forward and think about how we can declutter this part of the tree. There are a couple of obvious things, and it's very hard, I think, for you to see, but I will try to help you. I'm going to just say that this branch here, this is my primary branch, although it's not low, but at the moment it's thick and it's just lovely. So I'm going to just say that that's a really important branch. I love this little curve under here, and when I come and do some close-ups you can see that. So although this is my first branch, it's not quite thick enough yet. We've got this one above it, and if you can see that there, and this one here. There's a problem. We've got what I call like a crossing branch, like a bar branch. Two opposing branches that start from the same place, and they're doing this. And you can't see it at the moment because it's kind of camouflaged by all the other branches. But what it does is, as you're looking up the trunk, look at my lovely trunk, coming up here, get to this point here, and we've got this going on, which is these two branches here. I might be able to lift that one up maybe a little bit. You might be able to see this one and this one. Okay, I'll just turn it around a little bit. And what that does, it's a kind of like a psychological barrier. As you're moving up the trunk, as you're looking up here, all of a sudden you've got two branches sticking out doing this. Which, it's not the end of the world, but it doesn't look quite nice. It's nice to have them kind of staggered a little bit, you know. So we've got a little bit of a problem going on there. It will only get worse. So if I was to leave it, as these two branches get even thicker, imagine them being twice as thick, it then becomes more of an obstacle in this zone. So we've got to sort it out somehow. It's nice to have them offset. And in nature, and I think what we've got to try and remember is that most things in nature are not symmetrical as well. They're kind of off balance a little bit, our faces and things like that. So we try to avoid things being opposite and even. It's not always possible. Sometimes you have to live with things. It's a compromise sometimes. But we are quite lucky in this way, is that we have this branch here, which actually has got a lovely shape to it. And I'll turn it around a little bit. So just concentrate on this here. We've got this nice little twig going down there. So we could put quite a nice shape in there. It's not very thick at the moment, but in time it will grow and it will thicken up. So we actually get to the point where we can take out this branch. And that's great. So we're going to do that. We're going to take this branch out, chop it off. And there are a couple of other branches that are similar. And this is the other one here. All right. Because this one is nice and thick now. It's got some lovely twigs. It needs a bit of refinement. Got some crisscrossing twigs in there, but we're going to go through and just trim that all out. So for now, I know that I need to remove, and I've been looking at this for a long time. It's not something that I've just decided, I think, oh, I'm going to do that. So over the years, I can kind of see, yeah, I'm going to have to take out one of those. And now's the time, because This one's going to be a little bit light, a little bit tweaky, so there will be a little bit of space here, but we've got one behind it, we've got one above it, not a problem. Great, I love the start of this this branch here. It's lovely, really nice. I'll give you a close up. I'll come in later and do the closey-uppy thingy. So for now, let's stop talking, let's get on and have some action. Okay, so I know there now is a big space here, but that will gradually fill out. But here, it's a lot more simple. And we can see a lot more what's going on here. So that's looking good. So on to the next one. With both branches gone, it kind of equals up the space. When I first took this one off, it looked very gappy here, but gradually as we add more space, it evens it up a little bit. The trunk is very clear. We can see both branches much better. And as this one grows, thickens up and really comes out, I'll see if we can maybe do a bit of mock-up. Sometimes this works, sometimes it just sort of complicates it a bit more, but maybe I can blend it in, unhook it a little bit, you know, maybe something like that. I don't know what that looks like, but you kind of get the idea. So this will thicken up, branch out there. This one's lovely. We can see all this around here. Really pleased with that. A little bit of tweaking here and there, but that's good. And the trunk looks lovely. Great. Well, I'm going to leave it there for this video. I had thought that it would only be 2 parts, but there's got a lot more to it than I first thought, so we're going to make it into 3 parts. And so make sure you don't miss part 2 and part 3. Hit the subscribe button and all those bits and pieces to make sure that you don't miss out. I'm enjoying it, so I'm looking forward to doing the next couple of bits. And so for now, take care.